Welcome to our members and guests. I'm Jason Fubera, DIA past president and member of the DIA board of directors. Two key mandates of the Digital Imaging Association are to provide education and networking opportunities for our members. I hope you find the educational aspect worthwhile, and we invite your feedback. Our membership is comprised of prepress, printers, packaging converters, designers, advertisers, print buyers, equipment and consumable manufacturers, and vendors. If you're with us as a guest, please consider joining the Digital Imaging Association. Today's session is an example of the high caliber meetings that we run. If you'd like more information on membership, please either scan this QR code or contact Marc Raad at 416-254-4941 or email her at marg@digitalimagingassociation.com. Like most trade associations today, financial stability does not come from the membership reps. So we turn to the vendors and suppliers to support our goals. We're honored to continue to receive the support and recognition of the DIA's contribution to the graphics industry from the following companies. Platinum sponsors: Canon, HP, Innovative Display, INX, Konica Minolta, Landa, Spicers, Trinet Global Logistics. Our gold sponsors: Adobe, Fujifilm, Graphics Canada, Heidelberg, Kodak, Kongsberg Precision Cutting Systems, Mini Giants, Plastic and Paper. And silver sponsors: GMG Color, Significans Automation, and Sydney Stone. Please consider these companies and their demonstrated support of the industry when making your purchasing decisions. Technology for this webinar has been generously provided by HP. And now our moderator today is Stephen Longmire, National Sales Manager, Sydney Stone, the DIA silver level sponsor. Stephen's role includes researching new product lines and manufacturers to distribute, setting pricing structures, managing Sydney Stone's partner program, and conceiving and implementing marketing initiatives to support sales efforts. Stephen has served on the DIA for 7 years.
Thank you very much, Jason, for the great introduction. Thank you, everyone, for attending today, both in person and virtually. Today's topic is practical AI for printers. So today we are taking you to the shop floor on how print shops are using AI to make decisions, speed up production, and stop errors dead in their tracks. So just a little bit of housekeeping today. I'd like to encourage anyone attending virtually to please submit a question in the Q&A section of Zoom. Please also, people in the room, please turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate. As well, if the people that are attending and submitting questions online, if you can please direct the questions to a specific presenter if you choose. If it's not directed to a specific presenter, I will just pose it to the panelists as a whole. So also, people in the room, if you'd like, please wait for the presenter to finish the presentation. If you have a specific question, please raise your hands, I'll acknowledge, and we'll field them then. So I'd like to introduce our presenters today who graciously donated their time. First is Mark Lewiecki, Senior Product Manager of Adobe PDF Print Engine. So Mark's background includes 20 years in commercial prepress and print production, centered on packaging, catalog, as well as retail. So Mark will demonstrate features in Adobe Creative Cloud applications, which use artificial intelligence to address real-world prepress challenges, such as generating difficult bleeds and embellishment upsell ideas. He'll also demonstrate the potential of Firefly and Adobe Express, as well as Adobe Photoshop, to generate and inspire novel design concepts. So thank you, Mark, for joining us today.
Okay.
As well, we have another Mark, so this will be confusing for fielding questions. So if you wanted to do an ML or MR, that might be the easiest way. Marc Raad is president of Significans Automation, and Mark is a digital pioneer and marketing specialist. He's championed the power of digital printing, prepress, workflows, web-to-print innovations, digital asset management, MIS, as well as ERP systems, data warehousing, as well as mining and variable data printing, one-to-one marketing, CRM, as well as e-business practices. Wow. Mark's clients know him as a passionate and dedicated professional who takes the time to understand their goals and always exceeds expectation and is genuinely invested within his customers' success. Thank you, Mark, for joining us today as well. So I'd like to start off with ML, Mark Lewiecki from Adobe.
So I'll share my screen.
Yes, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Lewiecki. I'm the product manager for the Adobe PDF Print Engine, which is the rendering technology inside most of the RIPs driving commercial printers around the globe today. I'm going to talk about three things. I got 10 to 15 minutes. First is AI at Adobe in general, and some discussion on Adobe Express and Firefly. And then two concepts that can be used in practical concepts that can be used in prepress environments or printing environments. And that is to generate a bleed when a job arrives without one, using AI, and also using AI to generate ideas for a customer or upselling embellishment. So I have a few slides. I'll go through them quickly, and then I'll go into demos. Just a word, today is the third day of Adobe Max, which is the creativity conference. This is taking place as we speak in Miami Beach right now. This is a photo I took, or a screenshot I took from the Sneaks presentation, where new ideas which have not yet made it into products are shown. It's a big glitzy affair with a Hollywood actress as a co-host. I encourage you to check it out, because this is what we'll be seeing coming in the years ahead in some of the Adobe products. Some of them are relevant to print, most, or at least to printed graphics. Some of them are video and so on. I'm in the print team. We see ourselves as taking the vision of Adobe's founders forward, starting with Adobe PostScript. We were the first product group within Adobe. Now we're dwarfed by the other divisions. Adobe envisioned the idea of PDF, and we in the print team see ourselves as taking that vision forward. So when we talk about AI, there's a couple of types of AI. There's just AI, and then there's generative AI. And generative AI has been getting all the press in the last year. But before that, there were AI features in Adobe products. If any of you have used the feature in Photoshop called Content Aware Fill, that is an AI feature, and it does not require going out to the cloud. But the real buzz and what the industry gets all excited about is this generative idea, generative AI, where you can express in a few words an idea, and an image will be created. This is using the imaging model. In the last year, 7 billion images have been generated. And a feature in Photoshop that uses generative AI called Generative Fill is now in the top 5 most used features in all of Photoshop. So this is just showing the significance of it. Anybody who has a Creative Cloud subscription is entitled to generate 1,000 of these images per month, and then I think it costs more if you go above that limit. Firefly has been integrated into, there's a dedicated web page for it, which I'm going to show, firefly.adobe.com. It's been integrated into Adobe Express, which is kind of a layout tool, a cloud-based layout tool for non-professionals, but I do expect that commercial printers will be seeing files that were created in this tool. This is a competitor to Canva. Firefly is also integrated into Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and Acrobat. Acrobat for image generation, but also does text queries. So there's been three different image models. The large language model that we hear about with Google and so on, Acrobat uses that. We're on version 3 of the image model. A video model was just announced yesterday, meaning you can describe in words what you'd like to see and a video can be created. And even an audio model makes sounds for animations and so on. There's a lot of challenges from a AI point of view to generative AI. There's issues of IP. Who owns the content that was used to train the AI models? Adobe has access to a large repository of images. They have a service called Adobe Stock through an acquisition. And a lot of those photographers who were submitting their photos got very upset around July that their images were being used to train AI and being used to generate these new images, and they weren't properly getting recognized and paid for that. And since everybody was new to it, it caused a lot of confusion within Adobe. And there was an announcement right around that time that the general counsel of Adobe left Adobe for no exact reason. So what I'm saying is AI, everybody's sort of figuring their way around it right now, including you guys, but including corporations. Then there's the question, I created this image, I own the image, but what about the style? Because you can take an image and upload it to an AI and say, make me another image in this style. So how do you attribute that value to the creator of the original image? There's questions of bias, like how the images are selected. There's questions of data privacy, and there's questions of authenticity. So when you see something, was it created legally on properly trained? Adobe's making a name for itself in properly training. Everything's above board. Everybody's going to get paid. Everything's going to be recognized. And there's this thing called the Adobe Content Authenticity Initiative, where you'll be able to look at it in the future, scan an image and find out where it came from and how was it created, and everybody gets credit and so on. Express is this new product that's been out for a couple of years. It built on a product called Spark. It's been growing very fast every 3 months. It's not targeted at professional designers, but it is part of the Creative Cloud subscription. You get it for free. Everybody gets it for free, but the premium features are part of the Creative Cloud, or you can get this for, I think, $10 a month. But small businesses and students, communicators, and influencers are using it, not just for page layout, but for image manipulation, image creation, videos even. And I will point out that the Adobe Print team is working with the Express team to make sure that it's print friendly. So the PDFs that are exported were initially crappy, and they're now PDF X4 compatible, and there's even a tool to embed crop marks. So this can be embedded into platforms. This is not so much for commercial printers, but it can be embedded. Let's say a large vendor could actually make it into a service. And print in July also was announced the ability to print directly from Adobe Express. So, and initially they rolled out with a partner called Zazzle, but anybody can create plugins to Adobe Express to drive business to your print shop. If you make a plugin to Express, you can use it. So I want to talk now about a couple of practical examples, and focusing on Bleed. Bleed's an interesting problem to solve because it's a seamless extension of the design. You could kind of say it's a designer's responsibility. On the other hand, it's really a technical issue because it's about the fact that the page will get trimmed, and the designer quite often these days, because they might not know about the requirement for Bleed, they might just say, oh, I'm doing a letter size job, and I'll just build it as a letter size job, and they won't think about the Bleed. So there's kind of a gap here. So the result is printers often receive jobs without any Bleed. I think that's a known issue. I understand it's a main problem. So for Bleed today, the existing methods, and there are tools from Alice and Focus Pitstop to extend a Bleed. And the typical methods are to blow up the entire thing 1% to 3%, and everything just bleeds in. Problem is you're actually possibly trimming off part of the intended design. Another thing that can be done is to duplicate the pixels at the margins, at the trim lines. so-called stretch the pixels. And tools from Pitstop and Unfocus do that. Another thing kind of similar to the stretching idea is to reflect the bleed. But there are a class of this design elements or content types which are difficult to extend using existing pre-flight tools. So images, how do you extend an image by extending the pixels? How do you extend a curved shape or a pattern or something with diagonal lines in it? And this next slide kind of shows what happens when you stretch the bleeds, stretch the pixels. The image on the, if you look in the left margin, I don't know if everybody can see it on your screens, they do look stretched. They don't look as they should. The diagonal lines on the left of that far right image on the far right, they're no longer diagonal. So I use Photoshop, and I'm going to show this live, but I'm going to very quickly go through what you can do with Photoshop. This is the original image. I use content aware fill. So you just select the area to the left, you extend the canvas and select the area, and it filled it in. Just looked at the picture and figured out. This does not require generative AI. Generative AI, generative fill, which is one of the top 5 features in Photoshop now, produced 3 different options, and they're all quite acceptable, I would say. For wavy lines, which the content aware fill did a pretty good job. Generative fill, the 3 options, all good. So you can see the differences there. I would say they're acceptable. Depending on how wide the bleed is, typically it's 3 millimeters. Could be more depending on if you're doing a poster or billboard. You might even want an inch bleed or something like that. But keep in mind that most of the bleed is intended to be cut away. You're really looking for that narrow part right of the trim line. This is a pattern, and I used Photoshop extend, content aware fill, and it kind of did a half decent job, but it kind of didn't do the greatest job, I think. But the generative fill did, I think, a perfect job. And you look at the 3 examples, and they're virtually identical. So this is when you use generative fill, it goes up to the Adobe Cloud. You have to have a Creative Cloud subscription. You have to be connected to the internet. The final example, look on both the left and the right margin. We've got diagonal lines there. Content aware fill did a pretty decent job. Those lines look diagonal. They're not just stretched out. And so did the generative fill. So I'm going to move now to the live demo portion. I think I have about 5 minutes. Yeah.
You don't feel rushed, Mark. Take your time.
Okay. Please don't. Okay. That's the max thing. So I'm going to show something cool. Has everybody here used Firefly? Does anybody have not used Firefly? Yeah, there's a few people. I'm just going to type something in at Abstract just so you can see live how it works. So I'm going to say, generate a picture of an offset printing press on a busy street at sunset with a flower garden. Generate. Takes a minute or 2. These are lower res versions. If you like one, you get 4 options. If you like one, you pick it, and so then you can upscale it. I think that costs an extra credit to do the upscale, but this is the choices they gave you. So that's an example of that. The little bar at the top flicks with the. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to show something really cool. This is called Project Stardust. You can go. This is not yet in any product, but it uses Gen AI. If you just go to labs.adobe.com and search for Project Stardust, I'm going to go to the internal version. And what this does, I'm going to give you an example here. It kind of combines a couple of Gen AI features. So I'm going to start with this image. Now, did you see how it identifies it picked out the objects. It identified these objects, these people in the image. Now, let's say this guy is persona non grata, and they don't want him in the picture anymore. I can select him, and I can delete him.
Oh my God.
Now, he had his arm draped over this person's shoulder. And what I can do here is I can go complete the object. And she gets, this is using Firefly generative fill. And there's be 3 choices. Now notice that even when they took him out, they put the background in. They saw that the wall in the background.
Oh, yeah, they extended it down.
They extended it down, so that was filled in, which is really kind of cool. This is taking a little, okay, so there, that one doesn't look too bad. It's something looks a little bit weird there. This is option 2. I think that looks better. And here's option 3. Or I think option 2 is the best. Her hair is showing there. So there's another, that's an example of the kind of thing that's coming. Let me just go back to Project Stardust. I'm going to pick one more image for the Project Stardust. So this technology is actually, part of it is already in Photoshop, and I'm going to show that next. So here we've got an object, and it says preparing the space, scanning for objects, setting the scene. Okay, so it's identified this car as an object. So I can take this car and I can move it around. And see how it just fills in the background. As if it's, this is not in layers. This wasn't in layers in Photoshop. Kind of created the layer, if you will. So this is already in Photoshop, and or the technology's in Photoshop, but it comes together in a new way here in this Project Stardust. So let me go to Photoshop to show a few examples here. So this is a full page ad. It was submitted, but without a bleed. Now, it's an image, and granted, most ads will not come in as a straight image. And that's sort of where I'm coming in, because I'm a product manager for a RIP product, and I see a way of extending this capability so that we can extend the bleeds at the RIP, working from the rasters. In other words, after all the vectors have been rasterized. So if I've used the crop tool, extended it, and I've got this tool down here that says, what would you like to generate? Well, I'm not going to generate anything. I'm just going to hit the generate button. And it's working. It's going up to the cloud to do this. And going to send 3 options down to extend the bleed. Okay, so if we go back, you can actually see that it's actually filled in the 7-Up bottle. Yeah, if I go back, the original, you can see that what it did there. Anyways, I'm going to show one more example, and then I'm going to show an example of the object selection. So in this case, the wavy lines, I'm going to extend the margin using the crop tool. And I'm going to, just for fun, I'm going to say, blend the wavy lines into flowers. I'm going to go generate. Now this is, I can't imagine that a customer would ask you to do this, but I just thought it was something to show. But what is practical is what I showed in the slides, that you can generate these wavy lines if the bleed is missing. The other way that it can be useful is if a job comes in and the aspect ratio is wrong. Let's say it's a landscape job and the page it's intended to be printed on didn't do what I expected. But it did extend the wavy lines, but it was supposed to put some flowers in there. I tried this before the demo and it didn't. It did work. And the other example of that, what I've shown you here is also available in InDesign. And here, I'm not able to show you because I can't get it to work, but I'm going to show you where it is in case you want to try it. It did work for me in the past. It's a live demo, so this happens. But if you go in the InDesign under Window, there's this tool called Text to Image Beta. And let's send this again. Text to Image Beta. it's not behaving as I expected. Anyways, you can extend it. I've seen it work where you can extend an image beyond the bleed lines in InDesign using that tool. And you get to it from window, text to image, and it's beta. And it brings up this dialog, which I'm not sure what's going on there. But there's two choices, text to image and also generative expand. And works essentially the same as I'm showing you here in the Photoshop thing.
So it was the generative expand that was used for the 7-Up bottle, where I was trying to kind of extrapolate what the cutoff 7-Up logo was.
Right.
And then one was like a flower, or
Yeah.
like a chrysanthemum.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was trying to extrapolate what that image meant, and it was trying to fill in the gaps.
Yes, yeah. So let me go back. I've got one more thing to show. If I can get to Photoshop. I've lost my R at the bottom. I don't know if that's the zoom. There it to me. It's Photoshop. No, it's made of Photoshop. Okay, so here we've got a picture of a car. There is a tool, and this has been in there for a while. I'm just showing it because it's related to AI. And it's, you know, the Magic Wand tool? In that same little menu, there's a thing called Object Selection Tool. And it will also recognize that object as a whole. And I propose that PSPs who have the ability to add spot varnish, either in-house or through a partner, and use this tool to say to a customer, I know you didn't design the job with spot varnish in mind, but what if we were to add a spot varnish to this object and it would cost you this much and it'll make it so much more effective. I'm looking at ways to sort of automate that, just as I'm looking at ways to automate the, and there are tools out there that do this very thing. Tactify is a company that does that. Scodix has a tool that kind of does this, and I think MGI also does. But the thing is that today a lot of the embellishment is done, like spot varnish or metallic, for example, it's done at the design stage. In other words, the designer knows from the outset that they have to design it with the spot in mind. Now they're working blind, but that's another thing. What I'm saying is that I think there might be opportunities for PSPs to upsell a job to embellishment, not just digital embellishment, but any kind of embellishment, by showing them what can be done with the tools you have available now. So.
Yeah, to your point, Mark, yeah, it used to be the designer had to do like a 5th layer for the
That's right.
spot UV, where it'd be CMYK and then a 5th layer almost over top. So
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
excellent. All right, well, thank you very much. Excellent. Now turn it over to Marc Raad from Significance. Switch. Any questions for Mark before we switch presenters? And we'll have the opportunity for follow-up questions at the end as well. Okay.
Just waiting for Ali. Thank you.
There you are.
Oh, perfect. Nicely done, Mark. Thank you. Pleasure to be here with everyone. I hope my voice can be heard out there as well. And hello to the guests at home or in the home offices. Again, pleasure to be here. Let me start by saying this is a great opportunity and an education opportunity. So we're really at the crossroads of some amazing new technology called AI. And as a proponent of Industry 4.0, we'd like to tackle it as practically as possible at this point in time. Next slide, Ali. Thank you. So we're not as big as Adobe, and so I'm compelled to tell you a little bit more about our company. I founded Significans Automation in 2018, and it was really on the context that there was a lot of software coming into our space. And the software generally comes with a lot of complexities. And so what we wanted to do was create a turbo switch for people's businesses by way of learning about the software. How does it fit the environment? How does it fit the aptitude and the skill sets of those individuals using the software? And then how does it fit the budget and the long-term aspects of those business? And what's unique about our business is that we know the leading foundational solutions on the marketplace today. Those include ESCO, Hybrid, Kodak, and InFocus, plus an array of different auxiliary solutions that make up end-to-end workflow and workflow automation for people's business. So as we do uphold neutrality in the business, what we're really trying to do is find what is the bespoke opportunity and the bespoke models for those businesses, which of course includes AI that we've just learned about. We think about how to configure. Yeah, I'm staying on the side. We think about how do we get there? Well, we get there by configuring, customizing. It's just like going to a store and you say, okay, well, I'm a tennis player, for instance. What are the strings? What does the grip look like? So we really do it by way of tailoring the software so it best fits the environment. And by tailoring the software, in this case, to fit the environment, what we're doing is maximizing on the intended investment for that software. And as such, we believe as an organization that this is done so companies can be in a better position to adopt robotics and robotic processes in their future. Next slide. So at our core, Significans Automation is an integration company. And we believe that you guys can all achieve the highest levels of automation by way of integration. Our staff is as elite as they can get in North America. We're really proud of all the solutions that they've been building for our customers. They have a combined experience of over 100 years of industry experience, actually shop floor experience, as Stan over there would say. And really their focus has been on communications, integration, prepress, and of late with a number of engagements, we're doing a lot of web to print, e-commerce, and as best possible, getting into unmanned environments. My presentation will be about 15 minutes long. I'll start by offering a definition of automation and AI. Then I'll follow that up with how AI is impacting our space. Then we'll review how a few of your peers have had some successes using automation and AI. And I'll end by offering a recommendation on outlining a roadmap to your future. At the end of my presentation, I'll be giving away some goodies here that I brought today. And that's really for those who are going to ask a couple of questions or are inspired to increase the dialogue around these topics. Slide. So before we move to the crux of the presentation, let me start by saying there are commonplace words today like automation and AI. And most of these common elements, and most of the common elements amongst these two terms, is that they require deep learning models. Most interesting is that they exist because it comes from the cognitive. And then those aspects are actually formulated with a lot of data and logic to become a bespoke model for the environment. So what's automation? Well, I define that as a touchless process that is actioned. How do we get there? Well, we understand through the cognitive, what are the steps to get there? We articulate those, we develop a model around the manual processes, then we reverse engineer those processes so that it becomes very logical and digitized into a very automated process. And AI is defined as technology that enables computers, machines, to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision-making, creativity, and autonomy. It's very simple to look at around us what really has taken over in terms of autonomy. And some of us drive Teslas today. And on our way over, we put it into autopilot and away it went. And so that's a form of AI we'd like to invite you to think, wow, that car understood what my needs were. And again, this is the crux of Mark's presentation is understanding how it was generated and it became a generated form of AI. Next slide, please. So AI in our space is technology that's designed to automate repetitive tasks, analyze data, and improve decision-making. As I said in the beginning of the presentation, it really is at a crossroads. It's becoming a game changer for all of us because it does enhance production, speeds, reduce manual touch points, and ensures more precision for all of us. Next slide. At the crux is data and logic. And really, that is really the crux of everything. We need data and logic so that we create the automation and the AI that's needed for more thrust in our business. Without these two elements, there won't be automation, and simply there won't be AI. So keep that in mind as you look at around you, and you probably heard over the years that big data meant a lot to your business. Well, now it's becoming more and more, and then the analytics around that data becomes also essential to your business. So before we get into the AI aspects, I do want to cite a little thing that I went to a couple of months ago, and that was, went up to Google and I said, okay, how many forms of AI are there? And Google spat back saying that there's 7 different kinds of AI. Geez, some of us don't even know what those are. So today I'm going to try and help you define what those are. Next slide. And really, I want to focus on the ones that make more sense to our business, the printing and packaging space. Well, a few minutes ago, you learned from Mark about generative AI, and then you saw some examples that were fantastic. It's almost like running magic. And that's where deep learning comes into effect of what is the content and how do we apply the content to having more AI elements. What we do in our business and what Significance is fanatical about is narrow AI, which automates specific tasks and repetitive tasks. General AI, which is still in its infancy, by the way, but it simulates thought processes. Super intelligent AI, where you're using the computers to exceed human speeds and capabilities. And again, that's still in its infancy, but we're trying to adopt that, put that into people's business every day. And then aggregate AI, that's our favorite. It's where we've been patterning over the years some elements of repeatability in the business through advanced logic. Here's an infographic of AI in the production prepress environment, but let me break it down in the next 2 slides for everyone. So AI supports human decision-making. Just heard about that a couple of seconds ago. In this illustration, after order submission, general AI takes over to handle the decision-making processes of complex and mundane tasks. Then the system surveys the files to locate the errors and applies autofix rules. You heard from Mark where he was referencing InFocus and Callus, fantastic tools for pre-flight. From there, AI is optimized to work with the workflows, and the decision-making processes carry upstream through the workflow. With workflow integration, AI's role is to optimize the workflows, including job tracking and estimating and prepress scheduling. The next slide on the infographic continues with the flow of how automation is in existence in the workflow systems, and how through aggregation of data and logic, the systems will take over and think of the processes that make best sense going forward through the development or through the production process. Next slide. So as a little bit of a summary here of what we've just talked about, AI and the impacts of print workflows are the follows. Speed up production. It obviously reduces human errors. It optimizes layout material usage. It automates inventory and logistics and creates elements of standardization, which all our businesses will look to gain more of in the years to come. Next, we'll learn about some real life examples from the field. So as I said earlier, we've got the most elite guys working for us at Significance, and I'm very proud to say that they've deployed some amazing automation and AI solutions to meet the unique production aspects in various operations throughout North America. And the following case studies will obviously include and talk about how we've been able to reduce the costs, increase speed, increase efficiency, and accuracy through people's business. I'm going to invite you to look at these 3 different customers, but right underneath their names, you'll see in red their efficiency gains. And then further down after the check marks, you'll see the AI element that was used to augment their business. And as you can see and maybe noticed, their gains are huge. And they've come from very modest utilities of software or no software in certain cases to going on a journey with us. And by the way, every journey has been very unique because again, it goes back to that tailoring effect that I cited as an example earlier. And I want to start with super graphics on the extreme left. One particular area of interest was that they wanted us to program their workflow to automate the layers that were coming in on every order. So that they would come in essentially in a very similar fashion every time. And by programming that condition into the workflow, we made sure that every job was going to be exactly the same. Today, that creates a savings of 10 minutes per job. And let me tell you, that adds up very quickly in the course of a month for their business. And more so, we were asked to apply some special mark sets for impositions and layouts. And so now they're into what we call AI nesting elements in their day-to-day. Over to the middle example with TKM out of Ohio. Essentially, when we met them, they had no software. And over the last couple of years, they doubled their business and their output to the point of having a full integration with their MIS. When we first met them, we didn't really have an MIS to integrate with. So they built an order system or a custom ordering system that we could integrate with. And then we built the workflows around that system by using API calls. Speaking of AI in their business, we used advanced pre-flighting to do all the checks and the auto-correcting for their business. And then we allowed information to flow back to their ERP system, again, in a very automated way. And then one of my favorites is a customer that we're in project with already, and we will be for the next couple of months, is Workhouse Signs on the extreme right there. Their recovery was 20 hours, but let me tell you how we got there. So we built a system that monitored all their online orders. This is a 7-man operation out of Pennsylvania. And what's unique about them is really on a day-to-day basis, they don't have salespeople going out there. They're doing their business all online. And what they wanted from us was, how do we batch the jobs that are coming in? So we've developed a workflow that would sort, batch, process the orders to be placed automatically into queues for imposition. The AI included the smart ganging, the cut lines, the irregular shape tracing on their signs. And then really at the end of the day, what we were using were off-the-shelf software solutions to help them out with their business. And we were just coding and programming that solution so that we could create a bespoke model for them. And as I said earlier, the recovery was 20 hours. Now we're still in project with them, and we're expecting that with the next iteration of workflow that they're going to be saving an additional 8 hours per week on their jobs. Next. Thank you. We can go on and on with examples. I'm just going to pick one more in the interest of time, and because we want to get to some interaction, obviously, with all of you. I want to talk about the middle one there, Allegra. And this is an Allegra franchise out of Bozeman, Montana. I got a call from them back in November of last year. It's a husband and wife team that bought into the business a couple of years ago. And they came from the farming business. So her first remarks were, even farming is more automated in our business, where we have a lot of manual intervention, and we have a lot of manual intervention with everything that's going on in our business. So we talked for a little bit, and then they locked into a contract with us in February. And between the first few weeks till the end of February, we were able to get them into automation. And really, their problem was that they were experiencing a situation where 2 out of the 3 prepress personnel were leaving their business and moving on to other businesses that were going to pay them more. So they were feeling a lot of pressure at the management level. And really at the end of the day, we got them to do software. Plus we configured all that software to work with their environment. And now they are experiencing over 300% of efficiencies. So they're down to one person in prepress, but they've made up a lot of ground by implementing the automation that we've done through imposition and pre-flighting. Next slide. So we've just learned that AI streamlines production. But I don't want you guys to lose sight of this. At the end of the day, it's the human insight and the creativity that transforms it into something really magical. In the commercial printing space, I'd like to say that AI could be your best co-pilot. And having an integrator on your side or internally to your business can really help you foster continuous improvement to the next level. Next slide. So we have a little recommendation here. What should you guys do next? We like to say, take stock of what you got, sort of thing. So assess which parts of your business and your workflows can be automated with AI. Then talk to your suppliers, and this room is full of suppliers here today. Talk to your suppliers and see what their roadmaps are for AI and how they're going to instrument AI into your business with their technology or their solutions. Next slide. Then we would invite you to map out your current processes. Get all the logical and the data points down as much as possible. Either do it yourself or seek some aid to help you do this. It's really, really important to take stock of where you are currently. On this mapping, now I'm sorry it's a little faint to see, but on this mapping, what we've also done is taken the grid lines from the start of the workflow to the end and obviously the back end of the shop sort of thing. And those grid lines include current times for every process that's happening in the building. Again, that gives you guys some perspective of where you started. If we move to the next slide, we're looking at a future state, and everything that's color-coded there means that these are areas that are now communicating and they're fully integrated areas for the business. And they're color-coded because what we've done as an integrator is said, okay, let's bite these off one sprint at a time. What are the quick wins? Where can this be adopted? How do we build trust with these new change management processes in the business? And ultimately, this will give you a really good perspective on doing a renovation. I call it a renovation, but it's a continuous improvement on a quarterly basis in your business. At the end of the day, workflow is workflow, but it really is a living beast in your business that really needs some continual attention and development. Next slide, please. One area that we also encourage is grading yourself. This is an example that we do sometimes for our customers, where we go into every department and we say, okay, what's manual? What's being utilized? And utilized in our definition is there is some software, but it hasn't been tailored, it hasn't been optimized or customized for the environment. And ultimately, as you get to the green area of the chart up there, that's really when you're getting into robotic processes. And so when we do a grading process, there's no right or wrong. And many, many businesses in our industry, in fact, I like to say that 90% of our industry is still very manual and mechanical. And so there's a world of an opportunity to get into the green zone as illustrated on this map. Next. You know, the ultimate measurement for corporate North America is ROI. And so we always promote doing an ROI with any of your vendors out there, whether that's a new piece of technology, a new piece of software, a new process. We encourage that so that you're best aligned internally with your fiscal objectives, but also the objectives of the investment. So in summary, AI and AI-driven solutions, are tools that are built to serve us all. And because they're built to serve us all, they come from us. They're trustworthy. This isn't foreign, this isn't voodoo, this isn't magic. This is something that we're building with the technology that exists today. And I invite you to think of where this could be in the next 2 or 3 years for your businesses. And let us note that AI and is really a lot more accessible than we really think it is today. There are many solutions on the marketplace. They're highly effective and they're affordable. And that's the most important thing, that they are affordable solutions. I don't think that there is a need to do a large scale, expensive overhaul of any of your businesses. In fact, these are elements that you can bolt on or you can create Band-Aid solutions for, create that trust and create that sprint, and then do an overhaul if necessary. And then AI implementations really can pay for themselves, as you've learned through the examples I've cited. And they pay for themselves in a matter of weeks or months at the end of the day. So I've arrived at the end of my presentation. I want to thank you all for listening to me. Mark and I are here really to generate as much conversation with you guys as possible. And when I do get a question, I promise I'm going to be giving out these golf balls so that you can join us and the rest of the DIA June 12th. June 12th, already on the map, already on the calendar.
So, excuse me, there's a comment at 1 p.m. So I'm not sure if it's to Mark or you.
Yes.
Says that was awesome. Would love a deeper dive to this. So we'll ask which part. Excuse me. And there's a question. Dan Thompson wants to talk.
Let him on.
Yeah. Dan, you can ask your question.
Sounds good, man.
Change my slide.
Okay, so
Is Dan available? Nope. Okay, not, are there any questions in the room for either of our presenters this afternoon? Rob ends?
Hey, Rob.
Mark?
Which one?
Yeah, which
I,
part?
at a very rudimentary level, I use like spell check and Grammarly on occasion, and sometimes we have arguments. Sometimes I find I disagree with what they're doing with my documents, so I override it. My question is, what kind of approval process do you integrate into an automated process? And is there any learning cycle where it figures out that, oh, Rob doesn't like this, we're gonna change this? And
Is that a
automate
question you want to start with?
I think
Or
that's for you.
that's more for me?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the M&M show here. Speak up a little bit.
It's
when
like
you-
100 years of experience.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, that is an off-the-shelf solution, what I would call an off-the-shelf
Yes.
solution. And it really hasn't been tailored for you, and your way of operating your business. But again, the aggregation levels that are being built, so the patterning levels, over time, will understand what are your habits, what are your likes, what are your dislikes. And this is why big companies are looking for more data about you all the time. So they're doing a lot of data mining constantly on you. So yeah, when they ask for a survey, fill out the survey. And in terms of putting that right into a workflow, yeah, we do the same thing. That's why I said earlier in my presentation, the aggregate way is really for us to start patterning. I'll give you an example. When we are done a pre-flighting or an advanced pre-flighting development, out of the box, we like to say, you know, in the first month or two, we can probably get to doing an auto fix, which is an AI element for us. We can do about 75 to 80% of what the system has been programmed to do. Then over the course of the next 6 months to a year, the patterning effects allows us to understand what other elements of pre-flighting we need to be looking out for. We really, from a pre-flighting standpoint, we don't know what crap is coming into the shop to be processed, for instance.
Will there be an automated approval cycle that would
There
happen?
would be, yeah, if it's, if the pre-planning is picked up that everything checks out, then of course, the auto approval will be generated. Or it would be paused, then there'll be a QC control. Really, it depends on how the business wants to be run and how much automation they want from an end-to-end standpoint. When it comes to web to print, for instance, those files are already pre-approved. And so that there's no stoppage. I mean, it's completely hands off.
Awesome. Any other questions in the room? Okay, one more, and then I have an online question I'll ask as well.
In terms of like kind of reducing waste, you talked about one of the partners that you had was about, you know, ganging up multiple jobs together. The way that I look at it is I see, you know, if we have a client that produces that uses the same material for multiple components of their job, you know, is there a way of taking several dockets, finding out what imposition will fit the entire sheet with, you know, the least amount of waste possible, and kind of gang all that information together and then flow that through so that the printing gets done, the trimming gets done, and then the distribution gets done as well? Is there like, I feel that that's a big benefit for us.
Yeah, there are tools available. I know there's a Canadian company acquired by ESCO recently, Tilia, that does precisely that in terms of optimizing substrate usage, but also optimizing your available press resources and the form factors and so on. And that, if you put it all in there, it tells you which press or combination of presses you should use for this set of jobs. And it also gangs them together or imposes them or whatever. There's Tilia, and I believe there's other tools that do that. Yeah. Now, can I ask, are you talking about the wide format space, or are you talking?
Yeah, specifically in wide
Yeah.
format, yeah.
And do you have a cutter, like a flatbed cutter?
We do, yeah.
Okay, so that's a problem for you. Do you have, I think there are tools from Onyx Graphics and Caldera that handle that scenario, including irregular shape nesting.
Yes.
Do you use any of those type of tools?
Caldera, yeah. Yeah, Caldera we have.
Does it not do that nesting thing?
I just don't, we're not currently utilizing it in that way. So
Right.
it's a lot of manual intervention at this
Yeah.
point.
And you're not alone. There are so many people that have so many software elements that only utilize a percentage of
Yeah.
them without leveraging all the capability. Because you use what is usable for you at the time.
Yes.
So yeah, there's obviously, but yeah, if that capability is there, there's many other software providers that do
Yeah.
that as well. That'll have it laid out, will have barcode and reg marks laid out to then cut and finish the specific wide format substrate and shapes as well too.
And that does, I don't know if that uses AI or it just uses brute force, meaning looks at all the possible combinations of how things could fit together and, you know, and then just figures out which one is the right one. But I'm not sure if you'd call that AI, but yeah, it's using computers to figure that out.
ESCO would call that imposition AI, actually.
Mhm.
Okay,
And we are a proud reseller of the Phoenix line.
right.
And so the answer is categorically that, yes, and if you'd like to call my office tomorrow morning, we'll help you out.
Yeah.
I have a question from an online attendee, Deanne Sinclair, actually. She is saying, this is to Mark L.
Yeah.
With our Adobe subscription, do we have access to the tools that were demoed during this presentation?
So the answer is yes, up to a limit of 1,000 generated images per month. And the other tool that I showed was now the object selection Photoshop, that's part of Photoshop, so yes. And the project Stardust, it's currently a labs, it's on Adobe Labs, so basically anybody, even without a subscription, could use it. It's sort of like beta software. And you can download the files as well. So yeah, you can use, everything I showed is usable if you have a subscription.
And there's a follow-up from Deanne as well. As a business owner, how should I be educating my prepress team on all of Adobe's AI features? Is some training available through Adobe, or are there resources available to Adobe customers?
Interestingly, Adobe sort of, as you all kind of know, that the printing was, pendulum has swung back towards printing, I think. And we will be producing an English language version of guidelines for designers to make jobs for printing. We used to do this in the past and it was discontinued, and now we're starting that up again. So you'll probably see that in the next few months. So it's a book, like a 70 or 80 page ebook that has guidelines for how to make best use of the Adobe tools.
Yeah, I remember they said it used to be in print at one time,
That's
then it
right.
became a digital ebook. It was a certain time. Yeah.
A lot of guides out there.
Yeah, excellent. There's another online question as well. Please feel free, if anyone in the room puts their hand up, I'll dive into that as well. This gentleman, Rajesh, has a client supplied PDF file. It was designed in InDesign with 50+ pages with all type of graphics, but I don't have the source file to add print marks like bleeds and crop marks. What is the best way to include these bleeds and crop marks? You alluded to a couple of examples, Mark, in that.
I didn't show,
presentation.
generation of bleeds and crop marks. InDesign has tools to do that built in. So you can, if they don't work, there's tools from Unfocused Pit Stop and Callus PDF Toolbox that do precisely that.
Any other questions from anyone in the room?
Marc Raad.
Yeah.
Previous question, and you've been talking about individual tools, but these gentlemen's question, I think leads to the importance of communication and data distribution as well as artificial intelligence. Can you talk a little bit about middleware and why we put network solutions together to communicate and how that happens?
Oh, boy. Stan, would you like to take that question?
I could. I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have tools. You mentioned you have tools to do calculations and stuff, and you have devices that need those pieces. Part of a big component of the automation process is to provide the pathway for those files to get to the place that they're needed and the people that they're needed when they're needed. And that starts, as Mark was saying, when he looked at the customer input. Okay, customer inputs, let's say in a web to print situation, or if you have a customer portal that receives orders from your customer. It has to go to your MIS system. The files have to go to prepress. The information has to go to the scheduling and the production department. And eventually those files have to be created, segmented, and put into the different devices. For instance, Adobe Mark looked at the beautiful example of creating an image recognition, whether that would have been a smart varnish or it could have been have to go for a die to cut or a die to emboss, right? We create that by artificial intelligence, but then it has to be communicated and transported to a place that's of value or needs it. Okay? And that's the major part of the integration process is to automate the workflow so that the proper information goes to the proper people at the proper time. Okay? And I think that's a missing component of understanding what automation is. All the software does amazing things, but in concert, it's like going to an orchestra and hearing one instrument at a time, or do you hear them all in concert? Okay. And that's what the middleware and the integration from Significans does to your business.
We have a question from Dan Thompson. Are there any examples, this would be to Marc Raad, are there any examples of how printing companies are using AI to manage front-end processes, similar to what was just talked about?
Yeah.
Like estimating and analyzing email to make estimates. There's a bit of a tweak on that. So I say by email, I'm guessing the creative that is submitted by email.
Yeah.
Making reference there.
Not that I know of at the moment. We are in talks with a number of partners. And so there's some developments coming around, but there's nothing just yet. Dan's always been very innovative. Certainly had that. He probably wants that in his repertoire.
Yes, I'd imagine so. Perfect. Oh, excellent.
For Marc Raad, I'm new to Significations, but is each client dealt with on an individual basis, or do you have like out-the-box products for clients?
So, yeah, really, really good question. I would say 95% of our engagements are customized. A couple of years ago, we came out into the marketplace with what we call turbo switch packs. These are combo packs of software, maintenance, some pre-configured workflows. And the reason for that was that some people say, I just need automation, but I don't know what my starting point is. They haven't drawn up the maps and they don't know what their future state is. So sometimes when they're in desperate need, we say, okay, try this. This will help you understand how long your piece of string may be. And generally what we end up doing is we implement that turbo switch pack, which takes literally 8 to 12 hours to implement, and they're off to the races. And then after that, 3 months later, we get the call, oh, I'd love to integrate it with monday.com, or I'd love to get some information out of my printsmith or whatever it is. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Excellent.
Thank you.
We have another online question from Eric Schmidt. How long is the automation journey to effectively train your bot, considering the diverse and customized products in commercial print signage and display manufacturing and the process of aggregating the necessary data? So that would also become, I guess, how clean you should be to begin with, would actually help minimize that journey time for sure. Kind of garbage in, garbage out type mentality. You have to have the sufficient data points, but feel free, Mark.
No.
Be more so.
Mark, if you want to answer that.
That's more of a process question.
Yeah, the process question would be, it's such a dynamic, right? I mean, every adoption it's very, very different. Some of our engagements are hours long and some of our engagements are years long. So
Yes.
I'm sorry, I can't answer Eric's question with a lot of authority.
Any other questions from in the room?
I have one for Adobe, Mark.
Yes.
So with generative AI, it's all about the prompts that you put in. Does Adobe have like a tutorial on how to get the proper results from your inputs?
I don't know of any tutorial. There might be, but what I didn't show due to lack of time is there's a lot of options in that Firefly window that you can choose, and they basically give. And here's something else that I can't explain. You can put the same prompt in and go back a day later and put the same prompt in, and you'll get different results.
Yeah,
And I don't know why. So it's I would say look at all the different the things that you can tune. You can tune it for a square, landscape, portrait. You can do different kinds of color profiles. You can even do a thing where you upload an image and say, generate me an image in the same style or the same color palette as this image. So I would say the answer is to experiment with the available tools that are there. And you might find something on YouTube. I haven't looked into that.
No, just another question for Mark, Adobe Mark. What specific AI technologies and advancement kind of touched on today do you see having the most significant impact in the next, say, the question initially was 5 to 10 years, but things are changing so exponential. I'd say the
Yeah.
next 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, it boggles the mind really. I actually think design will change. How will that affect, I think the process of design will change because the AI can be used for inspiration, not just to generate the content, but also some of the things you see, you've literally never seen artwork that looked like this, or if it did, it would take, days to create, and now you can create it in seconds. So I think it's going to change the kinds of things that we're seeing. But in terms of print production, I think that there we're really looking at, greater efficiencies, which is more your art doing.
And I guess I'd tailor the same question to you, Mark. In the next 1 to 2 years, what's sort of the singular of the 7 AI types do you see having the most influence in this printing industry?
Well, some of the more advanced AIs like general AI and supercomputing are going to take a lot of effect in our business. And we're going to use as much as we can from the computing and the software to foster more automation in the business. I know that's a very general way of answering, but the real question should be, where is AI going for the next 2 months? Because again, it'll change every month. Yeah, right. So
Exactly. It's mining so much data all the time. too.
always.
It's feeding itself. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a little thing for the audience. I heard from your board, Mark, that next month there's a presentation on grants. And we're big believers as a Canadian business that everyone should try and foster their business by way of the government at this point. And if you can, come to that meeting next month and listen to some of the grant options that there are for people's business. I've taken away a little bit of your thunder, but
No,
I
absolutely.
just wanted to express that a number of Canadian businesses have gone the way of grants,
Yep.
and it's helped them tremendously.
Yep. In my previous role, I applied for and received digital innovation grants as well.
Yeah.
That significantly allowed, at that time, a small independent publisher business helped the ability to transform electronic digital tear sheets and invoicing and things that we would not have been able to do without the government grant application. So especially with the research, the Shred grant specifically, it aligns itself very well to the automation and AI component in your businesses for sure.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Do companies need to consider today that you need an AI guru in your organization, or is it a position that's going to be applied by everybody within your organization to use that tool?
That's another process question. Sorry, I'm gonna field the questions.
Yeah,
I'll answer it too, but I want to see if you want.
I think you need to look to your vendors to bring AI into the shop. It's actually pretty complex from what I understand, like even like it's, you almost need to be a specialized, highly specialized computer scientist to build your own custom AI solutions. But I will say this, I do think that, right, I talked about the imaging model 1, 2, 3, or large language models, you're hearing this kind of term. It may be possible for commercial printers, for example, to train models that they receive from a vendor and to augment them with their own customer data. Because customers, PSPs don't like to share customer files with their OEM partners. So if the training can be done using real world customer files, you can actually, because if you're in the wide format segment, all your jobs are typical wide format type jobs, and you want to train a particular thing on those types of jobs. So I think in the future, you will see the ability to do your own training, to augment existing models. But I'm not sure if that'll require an AI expert or not.
Mark, from our perspective, we see this very frequently. The print shops they're servicing corporate North America with their obligations. And so we often say, why don't you use a partner that will be an extension of your company, essentially train you and to build for you those elements to service corporate North America better. And compliance is huge nowadays, so why not adopt an extension of your company to help you out?
Just from the outside looking in, with no horse in the game, obviously, if it's embedded into the pre-flight, the workflow, everything like that, it doesn't need to have someone in the company that's an expert on it. It's already embedded into the file processing and workflow of the system that it wouldn't change inside. It's an operating, the finishing solution just has to take the output, put it on, reg marks, barcode, everything does automatically. They don't need to know, how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
So that's how I would equate
They
it.
want the easy button.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I can add something to that. A champion, most of our experience with companies that have a champion inside tend to stay on the rails and advance more quickly. People tend to look for answers, but the question is the most important part of the process. What is the real question? What are the questions that should be asked and be answered? And sometimes a champion and those are generally younger than I am, that is in the modern data-driven mindset, asks the right questions and allows the company to be prepared for the next steps in the journey. Is that, you can add to that, Mark, but it's Mark's example of TKM in Ohio, that there's a fellow in there that when he talks to our people, we don't understand a word he's saying. They're just bits and bytes and the data back and forth and stuff. And the solutions for that company come very specific and very focused because of that person's input and understanding of where they want to be and how they can get there. So you don't have to be the engineer, but you should be able to have somebody that can speak that language and understands the modern technology and where it's going. Very helpful.
Keep pushing for innovation and efficiencies within their company. So.
Right. It's the same as a press. If you're running presses, it's always good to have somebody that knows how to use a wrench. So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, at this point, we are going to wrap. We ran a little late. That's a great sign based on all the questions about this technology and these technologies. So thank you very much.
Stephen, can I just say one final word? There was a question about digging down deeper or driving down deeper. If anybody wants to send me an email, I'd be happy to engage with you on the subject of upselling embellishments or generating bleeds. My email is just my last name, or Mark, you can send it out. It's just my last name at adobe.com.
Yep, perfect. My closing arguments would be absolutely that we're going to, not arguments, but comments would be that definitely please feel free, reach out to Mark, M-A-R-G at Digital Imaging Association.
Okay.
.com and obviously become a member, but also she will disperse your question directly to our panelists today. I'd like to thank everyone very much for attending, both virtually and in person, and I thank our sponsors that allow these excellent educational events to happen. Our platinum sponsors are Canon, HP, Innovative Displays, Inks, Konica Minolta, Landa, Spicers, and Trinet Global Logistics. Our gold sponsors are Adobe, Fujifilm Graphics Canada, Heidelberg, Kodak, Kongsberg, Precision Cutting Systems, Mini Giants, Plastic and Paper, and our silver sponsorships are GMG Color, Significans Automation, and Sydney Stone. We would like to thank HP tremendously providing the technology as well as the food for those in attendance today, and Ali for running all of our digital elements today for the show.
Yes.
Excellent. So thanks everyone for attending, and we encourage you to stay tuned with our next one. Our upcoming events are. Don't have that. My apologies. Here we go. There we go. Upcoming DI events are the annual Owners Christmas Luncheon. The keynote speaker will be Dr. Marc Raad. Work smarter, not harder. That will be taking place Wednesday, January the 15th, 2025. Oh, sorry. Our next session will be Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. What to do when the MOE knocks on your door. So I'm sorry. When's the date of our Christmas luncheon? There we go. Okay. The digital, see, Ali wasn't responsible for the printed material, just the digital elements. The Christmas luncheon will be, sorry, everything's all over the place. Wednesday, November 20th is grants and Mark alluded to for printers, what's available and how to access the options. Jeff Dumont of Grant Synergy. Wednesday, December the 4th is the Boulevard Club Holiday Luncheon. And Wednesday, January the 15th, 2025, what to do when the MOE knocks on your door. Thursday, June 15th, as Marc Raad is handing out golf balls here.
Yeah.
June 12th, 2025 is our DIA annual golf tournament at the Ottawa Soccer Resort. And join the DIA today by scanning the QR code that is on your computer screen if you're attending at home, or on the television screen if you're here in the room. Or you can also email Marg, M-A-R-G, at digitalimagingassociation.com. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Hope you found it educational and fun, especially the last scrambling of papers. And in appreciation of everyone's generous contribution of time and knowledge for today's session, a donation is being made to the Canadian Print Scholarship Fund on behalf of both of our Marks who joined us today. Thank you.